This morning, Donald Trump gave his first post-election interview on Fox News, discussing allegations of widespread voter fraud, his legal strategy, and all around what he thought happened, what he plans to do. Now, I'll get into that in a later segment, but the Democrats, in my opinion, better hope and pray that Donald Trump actually wins. And I know you're probably saying, wait, what, Tim? No, the Democrats are hoping and praying that he loses. Yeah, some of them. The low information voters, perhaps. Regular people who don't really pay attention to news and were just told over and over again the orange man was bad. I'm sure they were praying for Trump to lose. But the priests of the cathedral, the media and political establishment better hope and pray that Trump actually wins. You know why? The Democrats are falling apart. This is the end, in my opinion. And it's not, well, actually, not even my opinion. The New Republic says the Popular Front can't hold. The only thing that is keeping the Democrats together is Donald Trump. Right now, data is coming out showing the Democratic Party has become the party of the wealthy and managerial elites. In fact, let me just show you a tweet I put out. I said, this is part of what drives the realignment in politics. Democrats are the party of the wealthy managerial elites and the moral authoritarians. Citing a tweet from Ben Weingard, who is an assistant professor of psychology at Hillsdale, he says, in 1980, the Democrats only won 9 out of 100 of the highest income counties. In 2020, Biden won over 50% of the highest income counties. Part of this, of course, was due to Trump's unique character flaws, but it is also part of a long-term party reversal. And that's where we're going. Take a look at 1980. I'm showing a graph here. The graph says presidential vote in 100 counties with the highest 2019 median income. In 1980, Republicans had 91% of the wealthy counties. Right now, here's what I hear from AOC and other Democrats, that these Republicans and their corporate donors, the billionaires, yeah, Bernie Sanders, the billionaires in this country are supporting you. Tom Steyer and Michael Bloomberg dumped tons of money into your side. There's a realignment happening. Traditional liberals, many are defecting, are disaffected, people like me, and there are many liberals who just call themselves liberals for Trump. Why? Because Trump has become the party of the working class. Take a look at this long-term party switch that's been going on. 1980, Republicans had 91% of the top counties. In 2020, they had only 43%, and the Democrats took 57. In 2016, Republicans had 51. Now, going back to 2008, the Democrats did have the lead, but that was an anomaly under Barack Obama, probably because Barack Obama was extremely popular. But now we can see where we're at today. The Democratic Party does not represent working class people. It does not represent social justice. In fact, it would seem the only thing they represent is orange man bad. That's it. AOC doesn't like Nancy Pelosi. I mean, to be fair, I don't know what Ocasio-Cortez actually likes, because I think her whole thing is basically just Instagram celebrity, and she's not really all that interested or knows what she's talking about. Because a lot of people don't know this because it's been some time now since she won her primary, but she started off as a pretty far left individual. She still is far left relative to the rest of the Democrats, but she's definitely adopted more corporate positions and been heavily criticized for it. But I bring you now, my friends, to the New Republic. See, don't take my word for it. The left is going to say Tim Pool is biased. He hates the Democrats, and yeah, for the most part. And that means you can't trust his word or whatever. Okay, I'll tell you this. Perhaps I do hyper-focus on Democrats and their problems, sure, but I'm not wrong. The New Republic says the Biden Popular Front is doomed to unravel. It may turn out that Donald Trump was the one force keeping the Democratic Party together. You know what? If Donald Trump can't pull this off, and I think it's extremely likely Joe Biden becomes president. I've been saying it over and over again, but Trump does have a path to victory. Whether anyone in the left or on the left or in the media wants to admit it, he does. But I think it's going to be nigh impossible for Trump to pull this off. But he could. Hey, he's done it before. But that being said, there's some good to consider. I know a lot of the Trump supporters are already saying, no, you can't say it. Donald Trump must win. Just hear me out. Two things are going to happen if Donald Trump does lose this. Progressives are immediately going to turn on the establishment because they were doing it earlier in the year during the primary, saying Joe Biden had dementia. They rallied behind Joe Biden after the fact because they don't like Donald Trump. Now that Trump is on the ropes, let's see if Trump loses. Republicans hate Biden. And guess what? Progressives do too. So then what happens? The largest voting bloc will become the Republicans, and the Democratic Party will be split in half. No joke. And even the left recognizes this. Now, this article from the New Republic is very much left biased, but let's read this and see what they're saying, because I tell you this, they may have a biased perspective on a lot of the stuff, but I tell you, I think they're right about a lot of it. The likes of AOC, the Squad, and the Progressive Democrats, they do not like the Democratic establishment. And you know what's going to be funny? I'll tell you this. In 4 or 5 months, assuming that Joe Biden is inaugurated, becomes president, and Trump leaves, progressives are going to start watching my videos. You know why? Well, first of all, I'll say a lot of progressives do watch my content, but for the most part, they don't, because it's moderate, I guess. But I'll tell you what's going to happen. You see, I'm going to continue ragging on Joe Biden the same as I ragged on Barack Obama. And then they're going to come in watching the content and saying yes to all of it, because I'm going to be hypercritical of a lot of the things he's doing, and so are they. So they're going to end up watching. I mean, I can only assume they're going to start saying things like, Tim's right about Biden and stuff like that. I can't understand why they voted for the guy. I guess a lot of them were too young to remember the Obama administration. But let's read this from the New Republic and see what they have to say. Mind you, the New Republic is the outlet that previously published an op-ed calling for abolishing the Constitution. They say, it's lucky that votes usually don't get counted till late at night. Victorious presidential candidates have 2 audiences to speak to. Their zealous volunteers generally get little reward other than the sense, inculcated over months of battle, that they are fighting to vanquish the forces of evil. On election night, they expect someone to extol their bravery and ruthlessness, and to hold aloft the head of the vanquished foe. It's preferable if this can be done while the rest of the country is either sleeping or weepily watching its own candidate concede. When days later, the president-elect pivots to flatter the whole country and extend an olive branch to his rivals, his loyal followers can feel jilted. Because of late arriving mail-in ballots, huge turnout, and the sheer closeness of November's election in swing states, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris had to rile up supporters and reassure neutrals at the same primetime event. It was 4 days after the election, at one of those outdoor parking lot rallies that became a staple of Biden's COVID-era campaign. Harris was triumphal. Our very democracy was on the ballot in this election, with the very soul of America at stake, she said. You chose hope and unity, decency, science, and yes, truth. Biden was conciliatory, quoting the Bible and promising to work as hard for those who didn't vote for me as those who did. Perhaps that will be a viable division of labor in the indefinite future. Let me stop right there and tell you this. Nobody voted for Biden, and that was one of the biggest mistakes Democrats made. No joke. They had some party unity. They had some ability to get things done. And with a Donald Trump foe and an allegiant media, they had an opportunity to take the Senate. Think about what it would have meant if Donald Trump won the presidency. Come this runoff election in Georgia, what would end up happening is the Democrats would surge. They would have the House and the Senate, and Trump would have what? The presidency? It's still good for Trump in some capacity, but terrible for Republicans. The greatest hope right now for Democrats is that Donald Trump wins. I know. I'm telling you, there's going to be leftists saying you're crazy. Think about it. If Donald Trump finds a path to victory right now, before the runoff election in Georgia, the Democrats will shock the state of Georgia. It will be a surge unlike any other. Trump stole the election. Our only hope now is take the Senate. Right now, Democrats are losing bigly. I think that's a real word. I'm pretty sure it is in the House, but they still control it. They may take Georgia. They may take the Senate if they win Georgia, but in order to take the Senate in Georgia, they would have to win both races and the presidency, in which case there's not a whole lot they can do. But the point is, if Donald Trump wins the presidency, they take Georgia and the party remains unified on a single front, orange man bad. That will allow them several years to rebuild and find some kind of common ground within the Democratic Party. If Joe Biden wins, the progressive Democrats will revolt. They're already starting to do it. A lot of the orange man bad Twitter accounts that I follow are already coming for Joe Biden, and I'm not exaggerating. High-profile reply guys from Donald Trump are now targeting Joe Biden because he's appointing lobbyists and bankers and warmongers. So it's coming. You will have a united front against Joe Biden if he wins. Trump supporters angry, saying he stole the election, and progressives saying he's a corporate crony capitalist. The Democrats can remain united if Trump wins. And then they can carry on and maybe split the Senate 50-50, forcing a tie onto Donald Trump, or onto Mike Pence, I'm sorry. But let's read a little bit more about what they say at the New Republic, because, hey, look, don't take it from me. They're the leftists. They say, Biden and Harris have a problem. The vision of ousting Donald Trump has been widely attractive, drawing 79 million votes. More Americans than ever have voted for anything. As Michelle Obama put it, they voted against lies, hate, chaos, and division. If by this she means Trump, then lies, hate, chaos, division, and division turnout have quite a constituency themselves, commanding 73 million votes, more than her husband won in either of his races. Trump's House delegation has been bolstered by the elections and radicalized, judging by the arrival in Washington of Georgia QAnon habitue Marjorie Taylor Greene and Colorado gun enthusiast Lauren Boebert. His Senate majority has held, barring a Democratic sweep of January's pair of runoff Senate contests in Georgia. As long as the Trump coalition remains the center force in America's politics, reconciling the country to a Biden presidency will be difficult, but reorienting the Democratic Party may be harder. With Trump himself gone, Biden's historic purpose is achieved. His work is done. If he doesn't secure a base within his own party, he risks radicalizing Republicans and Democrats alike. Boom. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. And I completely agree. You know, I'm not a leftist. I'm a center-left independent, meaning I'm a centrist. The left wants to call me right-wing. I'm a centrist. The issue is my center is rooted in, like, literally this country, where the people are in their opinions, not far-left fringe politics. Joe Biden is not for Medicare for all. Neither am I. I don't like him because he's establishment crony corporate politics. But I align more with some of the things put forward by moderate Democrats than I do the far left. The only problem is the moderate Democrats we have are like the worst politicians. What we need is a moderate populist who's going to say, let's all come together for the working class. Let's figure these things out together because, look, man, the populists left and right have more in common than they don't. However, many of the populist left fell for the narrative. Man, I could only imagine if the far left actually accepted a populist right-wing president. They don't. They view it as fascism. Instead, they opted for literal fascism. Major corporations colluding with the state, revolving door policies, politicians who would sell us out for foreign war, indefinite lockdowns. I guess they all believe in it because they just listen to the mainstream media and they don't do investigations of their own. I don't think, I don't think we're going to be better off with Joe Biden. And too many Democrats fell for it. Well, now they're all going to come out and hate Joe Biden. And, yep, it's going to rally Republicans and Democrats, populists, united in their hatred against Joe Biden, which is going to be another really weird realignment. It's going to keep going back and forth. Maybe Trump wasn't the right candidate. He was better than Biden in a lot of ways. Maybe we need a real populist moderate who can speak to everybody. We don't have that. We have establishment garbage. Here's what they say. The coming weeks may see the reemergence in backrooms and boardrooms of tensions that loomed over the 2020 Democratic primaries. Let us review the three power centers in the party as they existed then. The new economy. Two titans of the finance world, Michael Bloomberg and Tom Steyer, sought to win the Democratic nomination by funding their own various down-ballot candidacies. Both would eventually back Biden. There was also one impecunious primary candidate who had some original ideas about the tech world, Andrew Yang. The new economy provides wealth for so few people that it can never command the party's rank and file. But it exercises a dizzying gravitational pull on its leaders. Socialism. Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren were its candidates. And Warren, she denounced it anyway. She said she was a capitalist, whether or not that matters. The former in a doctrinal way, unions, benefits, income, redistribution. The latter in a way adapted to strike more precisely at modern power relations. And civil rights. The party's glue is civil rights, broadly understood. Civil rights long meant looking out for the practical and principled interests of black people, naturally a commitment of which cooperation with socialists is possible. But over the decades, civil rights has also become a regulatory and judicial system for advocating the interests of other groups, including immigrants, elite and mass, women executives, two-income gay couples, and lawyers. commitments more consistent with those of the Democrats' plutocratic wing. The role of civil rights as reconciler of contradictions can be compared to that of anti-communism in the tripartite Reagan coalition of the 1980s, which appealed in one way to the Christians who thought the country ought to be more fraternal, and in another to businessmen who thought it ought to be more rapacious. All the candidates were candidates of civil rights, but in varying ways. Harris was constrained to progressivism by the politics of her state. Julian Castro of Texas was closer to Sanders and Warren, but most were drawn to or from the Democrats' powerful 1% wing, with such a pallid ideological profile that it seemed the whole point of their candidacy was the chance to elect, say, Pete Buttigieg as the first gay president or Amy Klobuchar as the first woman. I'm going to stop there. And let me just say, Pete Buttigieg was attacked by the social justice wing of the party. Now, you've got the bread tube types. These are the socialists and the dirtbag socialist types. They're not necessarily all for, I would say for the most part, they're not necessarily all for social justice, though some of them kind of are. There's an overlap between them, and they kind of just tacitly agree and allow it to happen. I don't like it. Why? I'm not an upper class white suburbanite. I'm a lower class high school dropout mixed race kid from the south side of Chicago. Well, now I'm a man, mind you. That's the point. I didn't grow up in that world. I don't subscribe to their ridiculous views on race, and so I reject it outright. Outright. I've seen what their racism brings, and I will have no part in it. And thus, even though I lean left on many economic policy issues, I'm never going to support them. But the Democratic Party embraced all of this. Critical race theory. Joe Biden says he's going to bring it back. Well, that might please some people on the left, but it's not going to please many of the anti-war progressives who call these people the neo-lib social justice types. They say they come out in defense of the war machine because a woman now is in charge of, like Booz Allen Hamilton or something. I don't care if it's a woman or a man running these big intelligence firms, security contractors, and the military industrial complex. I'll just leave it at that. I don't care what their race, gender, sex is. I think it's bad on principle. You have anti-war leftists who are for left-wing economic policy and reject that, but they call it neoliberal. They point the finger at Joe Biden. And you know what? Maybe that's fair because Joe Biden he's going to reverse Trump's executive order on critical race theory. They love this stuff. They're going to bring it all about. I think what we may see, the anti-war left and Trump supporters, in the event that Joe Biden is inaugurated and wins, you're going to see a lot of agreement, a lot of support. Absolutely. Because they're all populists. What does that mean? They want what's right for this country. The populist left, the ones that oppose the critical race theory stuff, and I mean, I guess to a certain extent, some of them who support it, they're not pro-war. It's the default liberals who have become pro-war and are blindly supporting team politics. It's creepy. But I know many anti-war leftists, and there's even people like Glenn Greenwald. Glenn Greenwald is not a conservative, but he's ragging on the machine, same as everybody else. And he said in a tweet recently, these Democrats who only pop their heads into politics every so often are going to get a rude awakening when they realize what the Democrats really are. And he's right. Right now, the Democratic Party has forced coalition because of Trump. Trump is not a fascist. Trump is not a dictator. And most of what Trump has tried to do has been constrained. It's been a gift to the Democrats in many ways. They've just basically done, I'll put it this way. When I had Hotep Jesus on the IRL podcast, I don't know if you saw it, check it out. Subscribe to youtube.com/TimCastIRL. It's the podcast show. He was ragging on Democrats. I laughed. I said, I rag on Democrats. And I said, but what do you think about Republicans? He said, I don't know if the Republicans are doing anything that I can even talk about. And I'm like, exactly. The Republicans have literally just been sitting there confused, standing around Trump and not even supporting him at the time, to the point where some people have called for boycotting the Georgia Senate race because the right populists don't like the Republican Party to a varying degree. They're rhinos. Even Trump calls them rhinos. Right now, Trump is ragging on Brian Kemp of Georgia, saying, I regret endorsing the guy. They support Trump and populism, but they're not socialists. There are socialists who are also populists, don't like Trump. What happens with Trump gone? Everybody hates Joe Biden. Joe Biden was a serious mistake and will be one of the most disastrous things for this country. Mark my words. You cannot have a country run by a person hated by everyone. Donald Trump at least has support just shy of 50%, and that's still pretty bad. Now, I can blame the media for a lot of it. Trump got around 73, 74 million votes. Joe Biden got about 80, so they say. I know a lot of people dispute that. But at least Trump has near half the country. Joe Biden got a lot of support. At least Donald Trump has about half the country. Joe Biden got a lot of his support from people who hate him. They hated Trump more. What happens? Add every one of those Trump voters, 74 million, to about half of those who voted for Biden. And you are going to end up with over 100 million people who hate Joe Biden. I'm not making these numbers up. A Gallup poll showed the Democratic Party is just over 40% progressive, outshining traditional liberals and conservative Democrats. They're now the plurality of the party. And that means about 40% fine. You take about just shy of 30 million, around 30 million, I guess you could say about 35 million votes. You add it to Donald Trump's 74, and you've got nearly 110 million people who hate Joe Biden. And they will be unified in that. Maybe that's a good thing for this country. Maybe it'll result in a candidate that people will actually agree on, the 110 million, and then we'll really see some kind of massive 49 state landslide. But it wouldn't be with Trump. Anyway, I saw this story from the New Republic. The Biden popular front is doomed to unravel. That's right. The progressive left will not rally behind the party of the managerial elites. Well, let me clarify that. The anti-war progressives, the anti-war left, and the more dirtbag leftists aren't going to rally around the rich people. The rich people were convenient to them, I suppose, in that they opposed Donald Trump. What happens next? Donald Trump appeared on Fox News and talked about voter fraud. So we'll see. I'm going to do a segment on this and talk about why Donald Trump needs to keep fighting. He does. I'm going to show you the evidence, more and more piling up, and results. Yep. Real results showing that Trump must continue the fight. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. If you want to watch it, type into the address bar, youtube.com/Timcast. Just bear with me. Type that in. Okay. And as soon as you press enter, you will see my other channel. Check it out. Subscribe. Thanks for hanging out. And I will see you all then.